pull up, pull up.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Hangar 079. I am Zilch, as usual. Today we're going to do something I've been wanting to do for quite a while, and that's kind of take the Hornet head-to-head against the F-16. Two apparent rivals with a similar history. I'm going to get into that history and kind of explain how the two aircraft came to be and why they are the way they are. But first, let's take this baby off. Back into the cockpit here. So what I end up doing in these series of fights is take the Hornet head-to-head against the F-16 in a bunch of different scenarios. I go BVR with 4 medium-range missiles, AMRAAMs. I go within visual range, each with a pair of Sidewinders, and then just go on a guns-only grudge match. If you want to skip ahead to my conclusions, I'm going to say that not once did I feel outclassed by the Viper, but, again, your mileage may vary. So let's start with a history lesson, and then we'll get into the dirty fighting. So, how did we get to the year 2019 with now 40-year-old designs like the Hornet and F-16, still not only relevant, but still tipping the spear of many of the world's air arms? To get to the root of it, we have to go back in time to a mysterious decade known as the 1970s. So we're going to have to put ourselves a bit in the mindset of two competing superpowers. Remember, the Cold War was in full swing back then. With the United States and the Soviet Union butting heads across the board over pretty much everything from hockey to the space race, we're going to look a little more closely at the aviation situation back then. Remember also that this had been after 20 years of duck and cover drills. The world seemed to be on the brink of nuclear war, and these nuclear weapons were going to be delivered one of 3 ways. 1, by ballistic missile submarine, 2, intercontinental ballistic missile, and 3, nuclear-armed long-range bombers. It's that third thing that we're going to focus on here, because it directly leads to the development of the F-16 and the F-18. Well, maybe not directly. Actually, it's fairly convoluted, but we'll get into it. This is the North American XB-70 Valkyrie, a long-range, supersonic, Mach 3 plus strategic bomber designed to fly very long ranges from bases in the United States to targets deep within the Soviet Union. This was designed to defeat the Soviet integrated air defense system. Back in the day, as they do today, the Russians have a pretty sophisticated system of radars, point interceptors, and most notably, surface-to-air missiles. You may remember an incident where a U-2 spy plane, despite its altitude and speed, was down by an SA-2 or 3, I can't remember. Anyway, the XB-70 was designed with this in mind. The thought was, if you fly high enough and fast enough, you're going to be outside of the range of radar, and you could pretty much outrun any missile they threw at you. So this was definitely perceived to be a threat to the Soviet Union. In response to the perceived threat of the XB-70, and unknown to the United States and NATO allies, they began work on this. Most of you may recognize the MiG-25 Foxbat. Remember that the XB-70 was designed to fly at 70,000 feet. That is really freaking high. And the MiG-25, in response, was designed to be able to fly far enough, fast enough, and high enough to make a meaningful intercept. Now, if you look at Wikipedia, you're going to notice that the MiG-25 has an operational speed of Mach 2.83. However, it is capable of reaching Mach 3 plus, somewhere around Mach 3.2, at the expense of ruining those engines that pushed it that fast. This design scared the crap out of the West. Now, this was perceived to be an agile and fast combat fighter, although later on we discovered it was not the first thing. Fast, yes. Agile, no. But we didn't know that back then. There's a story of a famous intercept of a Libyan MiG-25 by an F-4, I believe flown by Israel, in which the MiG-25 just kept accelerating, pushing the throttle forward, and the F-4, which was designed for straight-line speed, could do nothing to keep up with it. This scared the West enough to develop this. With this audience, I don't think I need to make any introduction or explanation of what the F-15 is or what it does, but it was a response to a perceived threat that wasn't really there. The MiG-25 wasn't a fast, agile dogfighter. It is a long-range, very fast interceptor. The F-15 designers didn't know that, and in response, they designed something that was fast, agile, and equally capable at beyond visual range shots, high-speed dashes, close to Mach 3, although not quite, and definitely being able to hold its own within visual range. The problem with the F-15, once the Air Force started taking orders for them, it was very complicated, and more than that, very expensive. In response, the Air Force designed the Lightweight Fighter, or LWF, competition. The two leading designs were one by General Dynamics, the YF-16, which you can see here, and another one by Northrop, which you may or may not have heard of, called the YF-17 Cobra. No, that's not a Hornet. That's a different design. This was designed for the Air Force. You'll also notice, even among the F-15, the F-14, the Hornet, and the Viper, a kind of pivot on how Western aircraft are designed and what concept they intend to fulfill. If you look back into Cold War fighter design, with a couple of exceptions like the F-5, you're going to notice that the trend was for high-flying, very fast, yet unmaneuverable aircraft kind of under the control of radar systems like the SAGE environment and such. The idea being that the dogfight was going to be dead. The F-4, as you know, probably, was designed without a gun in it. Although it was fast, had a pretty cool radar, had the ability to shoot Sparrow missiles at a pretty long range at targets that probably knew those missiles were on the way. The idea was that sensors and technology and sophisticated systems were going to make the dogfight obsolete. Everything was going to be long-range jousting. I mean, really, why would you get close to something that was trying to shoot you down? That does make sense in concept. Soviet designs like the MiG-17, for example, were designed as interceptors as well, but more of a point interceptor. Heavy cannon, but those things could turn pretty well. You may be enjoying the MiG-19, see for yourself. So the F-15, to some extent the Tomcat, the F-18, and the F-16 were all designed with this kind of newish concept called the energy maneuverability theory, or EM theory. You can Google that, look up John Boyd, pretty interesting. That changed the whole idea of what a fighter was going to be. Kind of changing tack from the long-range, straight-line, very fast interceptor relying on missiles to something that can do that if it wants to, but really is going to be better at close-in, high rate of turn, within visual range guns and short-range missiles kind of thing. Even the YF-16 was built without any radar in it, if you look at it. That was added later, along with Sparrow missile capability at the behest of the Air Force. So the concept then was to have something that could turn, point, and shoot very quickly, rather than the need for a high-speed dash. So the YF-16 and the YF-17 ended up in a fairly famous fly-off between the two, coming out about even, but for political, economic, and other reasons, and probably in large part due to the engine commonality between the F-16 and the F-15, the Air Force ended up choosing the YF-16 as the winner of the lightweight fighter competition. However, all was not lost for Northrop. The Navy got notice of the YF-17 Cobra and thought it could be adapted to something they could use on an aircraft carrier. So Northrop got together with McDonnell Douglas, beefed the airframe up, gave it thicker landing gear, a bunch of other modifications, and now we have the F-18 Hornet. The rest is 40 years of fighter history. What I think is interesting about all this is that in the case of the F-16, the F-15, the F-18, these were all developed kind of indirectly in reaction to things that ended up not materializing to be the threat that they were perceived to be. The F-15, developed in response to the MiG-25, which was going to be the super fighter, ended up not materializing to be that kind of threat. And the MiG-25 itself developed as a reaction to a perceived threat of a bomber from the United States, which ended up not materializing at all. So here we are in 2019, flying aircraft that were developed in response to Cold War threats, or lack thereof. Anyway, as you can see, both designs are capable of being adapted, developed, and put into pretty much any combat role you can think of. From the original point defense interception they both kind of had in mind, to the lightweight fighter competition, 2 strike, seed, close air support, even a tanker in the case of the Super Hornet. It goes on and on and on, which kind of goes to show that the original intent of a design does not necessarily lock an aircraft into its intended role. If the aircraft is capable of doing something, it's capable of doing it, no matter what label you stick on it, to varying degrees. That's it for the history lesson. If you skipped it, I recommend going back and listening to it, especially the part about the octopus. Anyway, now that we've flown the Hornet a lot, how do I feel about it? Well, I think it can do pretty much everything, and I think someone else put it a little better than I ever could.
And now I feel I can take on the whole empire myself.
So with that nerdiness out of the way, let's start some within visual range missile engagements. And there we go. Not hard at all. So in the Hornet, it's within your best interest to make the kill as soon as possible against something with an energy advantage like the F-16. He's got a better thrust to weight ratio, so the longer the fight drags on, the slower you get, the more he's going to have an advantage over you. So you got to be judiciously aggressive, I guess would be the best way to put it. Got to pull that alpha, don't be afraid to point your nose on him, get that missile shot quickly, but also consider that the missile may miss and you may have to follow up with guns or something. So with that, pull just enough alpha to put your nose on him, keep as much speed in the bank as you can. But if you can make the kill now, by all means do it. No use prolonging it. It's not a chess game. You'll definitely see why in this match. This is actually pretty sloppy. When it comes down to weapons employment, I should have killed this guy 10 times over by the time I lay into him with a gun. Even with missile guidance and radar computed gun sights, sometimes it comes down to good old Kentucky windage every now and then. So like I said, be ready to pull that alpha and make the kill, but you'll see why in this fight it does pay to keep some energy in case you need to run the guy down. Bro, are you hacking? Horrible missile shot, by the way. I was getting kind of desperate. Finally. Less than 100 gun rounds left. That's one of my gripes about the Hornet. It's really good close in, but the ammo can isn't really huge, so you really have to be accurate with that gun. Make your shots count. So here you can see in the tac view where I managed to saddle up on him reasonably handily. He's not turning as tight as I can. He's just trying to squeeze my energy dry. Gonna hop in on a 6 pretty quickly. I just can't make the kill. It's really sloppy. I make up for it next round though. The next one you'll see. I'm kind of proud of it. Now this one, I finally I think I'm getting a feel for what the Hornet is good at and how to win within visual range, how to get that nose on the target really quickly. This one's pretty efficient. Not much to it. So at this point, I feel like I'm pretty confident in the sidewinder ability in the Hornet. They just they go really well together, which makes sense considering the design. So using heaters within visual range in the Hornet, unless you really screw up, you're going to have to try very hard to lose. You've got a way to point your nose very quickly, get that missile within the envelope, and squeeze the trigger. You can saddle up on pretty much anything. And I don't want to say it's boring, but you're going to feel very confident that you can handle whatever life throws at you. So when you take the missiles off, fighting against the F-16 gets a lot more interesting. You'll see what I mean in this next engagement. Just a heads up, it takes kind of a while and is really dirty. Alright, so here we go, standard head-on merge. I make my turn to the left, a little nose down to keep my speed up. And you'll find throughout this fight, it's far more even. I'm still trying to get a handle on how to fight with guns against a similar opponent in the Hornet. This guy really gives me a run for my money. So what I found is that with his energy advantage, if he wants to extend a bit and reset, he can do that. However, I have found with the Hornet, because you can change your flight path very quickly, and if you have enough energy, you have that nose pointing authority. You have a good roll rate too. This adds up to an excellent defensive platform. So even though he has me at a disadvantage throughout I'd say maybe 2/3 of this fight, he's on my rear quarter, he's in pretty good firing position, or at least close to it. If you got a good padlock on him, and you have at least even a little bit of energy, you can throw him off. Another thing you have is excellent slow speed handling in the Hornet. So if you do bleed off your energy, you still have control down to really low speeds. And if you watch closely, like that last head-on pass, somebody who was a little more with it, a little more canny, a little better aim with a gun, probably could have made the kill earlier. I also do recommend turning on your HMD. Even if you don't have off-bore sight weapons, being able to see your airspeed at a glance, no matter where you're looking, is a good thing. But defensively, BFM, the Hornet is excellent. If you've got him back here somewhere, you can see kind of where he's pointing. You can spoil his shot without too much effort. So you can at least stay alive. That's really good if you're using a teammate. You can set up your attacker to be killed by your wingman if he's available. But 1 versus 1, it gets pretty exhausting after a while. Quick reversal if I had enough energy here. See what I mean? If I had enough speed just to catch up just enough, I could have pulled just a little bit more for a possible snapshot. But here I'm still pulling alpha like an idiot. But I want to keep him in front of me, so, it's a trade-off. Got to keep that angular advantage. That's pretty easy to do with this plane. And I lost sight. I think, is this where I lose sight of him? There's one point where I level off and bump the nose a little bit to unload the wings, catch some speed up. So I'm sweating it a little bit here, but again, even though he's in a pretty good position, I don't feel like he can line up a good enough of a shot to really kill me. You can see it's pretty easy to force him out in front, at least for a split second. So if you can do it just right, if you can manage that, and get your nose in front of his, a snapshot's a good idea. So if you're trying to practice guns only, BFM and the Hornet, one thing you may want to focus on is a high angle off snapshot. You want to fire in front of his nose so he flies through the stream of bullets. If you can do that reliably, you're going to surprise a lot of people in this jet, I guarantee you. With an opponent running slightly faster than you, it's a little harder to saddle up on him. You might be able to get behind him, but he's going to extend a little bit, and you need to stay within the firing envelope of your gun. If he lights the burners and extends out, you're going to have a little more difficult time. You don't accelerate as well as some of the other jets. Right there I could have killed him. I really should have. See what I mean? I can turn, I'm pointing at him, but I can't catch him. So I gotta wait down low for him to come back down. Another thing, the well-known weakness of the Hornet is fuel. So if you're lighting the burners, trying to catch this guy, you know, if the fight is dragging on, every second you're in burner, every second the fight goes on, the less time you have to stay within your corner speed, your ideal fighting envelope, all that other stuff. So fuel directly translates into turning performance, if you want to think of it that way. So you got to be really judicious with that afterburner. Conserve your energy until you pull that turn, make the kill quickly, and move on. Watch that fuel. That point is about to be made in a very obvious way here in about a second. Well, maybe a little more than a second. Boom. So, he punched out. I don't know exactly why. I wasn't able to see why in the TAC view. I couldn't see his fuel state, but my best guess is that he had his afterburner on the whole time, melted all of his fuel, and had no choice but to punch out. Or he was heading for the deck too fast and punched out before he augured, but it didn't really look that way. Here's the TAC view. You can watch the whole messy engagement. So here you can, in the TAC view, you can really see what I mean, where he's in pretty good position most of the time, but he can't really make anything of it. Looks like right before it feels like he's about to give me a squirt of guns, I'm able to throw off the shot. So even if you got somebody behind you, never give up, always try to spoil that shot. Of course, if he had had a missile, well, it would have been pretty much over, but the same goes for him too. And there you can see how the F-18's turn performance can really help you out. Unfortunately, in that strong turn, you end up pretty slow. Meanwhile, he's retaining his energy pretty well because 1, he's in an F-16, and 2, he's AI. So that lets him get in here behind me. Had he had a missile right here, I'd have been dead. But, you know, he didn't. And I knew it. So you can make his shots pretty difficult. So this fight, you kind of see how the F-18 works defensively within guns range. It was a hard fight. I'm glad he ran out of fuel, or whatever happened. I'm not sure I could have killed him eventually. I probably would have run out of fuel myself. Okay, this fight I'm actually kind of proud of. This is one of the best gunshots I've ever made, and you can see how you take more advantage of that Hornet to make the kill quickly. You can see how the HMD helps out a lot. If I could have made a snapshot right there, somebody a little better than me probably could have done it. Right here too. I attempted, but I was a little off. Probably a little high and a little too late. Sticking with it, keeping my speed up, close the corner speed, and right there, had I pulled a little more G, probably could have made a little snapshot yet again. So that's 3 opportunities. Staying much more in control of this. Another missed opportunity. But there we go. Boom. That's what I'm talking about. Whereas he's got that AI, emergency procedure behavior where he just flies in a straight line for a while. But that is probably closer to flying the Hornet to its best. Well, I don't want to overstate my ability here, but that's closer to where I think the Hornet's strengths lie. Judiciously pulling high alpha to make a shot and make the kill. Now, that changes if you have a 2v2 or a many versus many situation. You don't want to go, pulling high G, completing all your speed, and just having his wingman pounce on you. So you have to read the situation, of course. And there he goes. So after that series of matchups, I am extremely confident in the F-18's ability to handle itself and pretty much dominate, or at least get even odds against anything DCS World can throw at it. As with most things, it's all going to come down to your ability to use the Hornet's traits to its best advantage. Now, BVR, that's a little different. Let's move on to the Persian Gulf and see how that goes. So we're going to take my Hornet, put on my favorite paint job, and we're going to arm with 2 AIM-120Bs, 2 AIM-120Cs, and 2 Sidewinders, along with a gun. And I'm going to load up the F-16 with something pretty much equivalent here. Actually, almost the exact same loadout. And with this, my BVR tactics are pretty sloppy, pretty rusty. And in this, I think the two are much more evenly matched. They have the similar weapons, similar thrusts, similar speed. They're so similar in BVR that, at least in DCS, until the Hornet comes out, we can make a really in-depth analysis. It's going to come down to whoever uses better BVR tactics. And I gave it pretty much even odds. And as you can see with these, I'm pretty rusty. And this one, he kills me. The next one, we kill each other. And finally, I get my shit together and end up killing him. So it's all about, did you study BVR? Do you know the weapon engagement zones? Are you traveling higher, faster? And what's your drag? All that other stuff. How's your evasion? Your countermeasures? Which is a whole subject on its own. So between the two, I don't know if there's enough difference to really, decide anything. It's all about the better tactician. Of course, that goes both ways. That's within visual range too. But against the AI and DCS, you got nothing to worry about in the Hornet. So this is a strike against my ability to give a good tutorial. Yeah, as you'll see, this is just a giant cluster. I don't really do anything to defend myself. I offer no offense. I'm waiting for a good missile shot while he's throwing jabs at long range. As you can see, the effect of an AIM-120 at long range, making me go defensive and wonder what the hell is going on, try to turn back into him, engage, and smack. Yeah, this one ends in a nice, mutually humiliating mutual kill. The takeaway from this one is, if somebody has AMRAAMs, remember that even if the launcher is dead, the missile may still be active and tracking on you. Don't stop jinking merely because the thing you're shooting at died. So here I finally pulled my head from where it was beyond visual range up my own ass and get my shit together. Finally do a meaningful engagement. And this was just a matter of practice. I haven't done AMRAAM jousting, I think, since I did my F-15 tutorial, which has been a couple of years. It's not an excuse. I should know what I'm doing, and finally started remembering at this point. It's all about that first shot. First look, first shot, first kill. That's not just something they say to sound cool. Getting that first shot off really gives you an advantage. So instead of waiting for the perfect shot, here I start shooting a little earlier, trying to throw him off a little bit. It pays off. Of course, he gets shots in too, which you'll see in tag view. And of course, just because he's dead doesn't mean his missiles are. Remember, the A-120 is autonomous once it goes pitbull. So he's gone, but his missiles are still flying at me, still tracking. You gotta be ready to handle that. That's why it's important to keep some energy in the store. Some altitude, some speed, whatever. You gotta figure it out at this point. And here you can see he gets first shot at a, what is that, 30 miles? I shoot at about, what, 20, which is a better probability of kill. Yeah, around 20-ish, something like that. Of course, so by the time his missile gets to where I am, it's pretty slow. That third shot, didn't really need it, but I didn't know that. And some decent evasion. Not bad. So, the F-16 fighting Falcon, called the Viper because it looks like the ship from Battlestar Galactica, against the F-18, which looks like the X-Wing, but isn't called that for some reason. How do they match up? Well, it depends, just like everything else. That said, I love the Hornet. I feel like I can do anything in this plane. It's got its limitations, most notably fuel, and therefore, as you're trying to save fuel, you're putting external tanks on the thing. You know, you're taking up space you could use for weapons. And that's why it's important to learn how to use the tanker. So within visual range with missiles, I'm going to put a slight advantage toward the Hornet. I think its ability to point its nose really quickly and make a shot really help it out. Guns range? I don't know. I'll flip a coin. Beyond visual range, same thing. So, as with most of these analyses, there are too many factors and too many variables to make a decision one way or the other. But until the F-16 comes out, unfortunately we're left with us fighting against the AI, which has its own limitations, but man, I gotta tell you, until that time, I am not really missing anything. The performance envelope of the Hornet is just astounding. I wish it could accelerate better, but you can't have it all. It is heavy because it has to carry all that carrier here. Every aircraft design in existence is a series of compromises, be it expense, weight, fuel fraction, size, speed, maneuverability, low speed handling, fuel efficiency, all that stuff, all adds up. But so if you're building an airplane that really needs to do it all, you're going to end up with some compromises. And in the Hornet's case, that came at the cost of fuel. But look what it can do. I haven't yet flown a mission in DCS in the Hornet where I was like, gee, I'm out of my league. I don't know if I can handle this. I'm in a bad position. The feeling is, with this plane, I got this. Now, while it can do everything very well, it can't do it for very long, so you really have to be judicious with the afterburner. Keep the throttles out of the firewall, learn how to use the tanker, which I've yet to do. But in the meantime, you can goof around and do fun stuff like this. Let's see if I can do that cool catwalk that they do at air shows. The answer is yes, but not very well. Seems like you need to do some practice and memorize some airspeeds and stuff like that, but still fun to try. And as a side benefit, if you want to roast a few fish in the meantime, have at it. Anyway, if you stuck with me throughout this entire video, I want to offer my sincere thanks, and really, it's cool of you guys to stop by and check out my stuff and leave some comments. I put a lot of effort into this one, at least more than usual. And thanks for taking the time. Hopefully I have some more stuff up there for you soon, but in the meantime, good hunting out there.